Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and Yahoo Sports released a recent power rankings for the 2021 NHL season. I'll be reviewing that power rankings, what I think of it. We'll be looking from 31 down to 1 in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below, and let's take a look at Yahoo Sports Power Rankings. Alright, as usual guys, want to give a quick plug to our Instagram and Twitter handles at goalline_hockey. Links will be in the description down below, as well as playing throughout this video. And make sure to check out our Patreon, where we upload a weekly podcast every Thursday night. So make sure to check that out as well. With that out of the way, guys, we got this week's power rankings. Week number 1 of this season will be sometime soon, hopefully. We do not know the date on the 2021 NHL season returning. I gotta adjust the mic. Okay, there we go. Much better. The NHL season has not been announced quite yet, and the NHL is kind of keeping it close to the vest. Now, they have an idea of when they want the season to start, but I don't think they will be making that public anytime soon, because they really just internally they have to know what they're doing, and once they figure that out, obviously plans change, and once that issue comes up, they want to set everything up before they get ready. So we talked about that in our most recent video, talking about the NHL and the updates around when this season will begin and stuff like that, which you guys have been commenting on, and everybody has been quite interested in what goes on with that. So I appreciate the support with that. So today, guys, I think it's a little too soon for a power rankings. I'm not going to put myself to that task quite yet, because we don't know. I'm going to at least wait till training camp. I'd like to do a divisional power rankings maybe in the next 2 weeks. But in terms of power rankings throughout the entire league, I think we're just too far away for me to do that at this point. But like I said, probably expect power ranking videos for each division sometime next week. I plan on doing that. So we're going to start things off, guys, at number 31. And at number 31, Yahoo Sports has the Detroit Red Wings. This is not much of a surprise, I would think, to most people. The Detroit Red Wings struggled last season. They were the worst team in the NHL by far. By the NHL trade deadline, they had already secured last in the NHL standings. It's going to be another, again, it was a good offseason for Steve Yzerman, but the Red Wings are still lacking they have many issues on the blue line, which I think is going to hurt them. Their offense is going to start putting things together this year, and like I said, the draft is going to be huge for them over the next couple years, developing defensemen, guys like Moritz Seider, a couple of those other young Finnish guys, and Swedish defensemen they've been picking up. They need those guys to continue to develop, but in the meantime, it's going to be a rough road for the Red Wings. I think they actually made some upgrades. I think in between the pipes, Thomas Greiss is much better than Jimmy Howard, so I think that's an upgrade there. But overall, the rest of their team, there are still many issues with this roster, and it's going to be tough. Even with Thomas Greiss in there, the Red Wings will struggle this year. Now they have at number 30, they have the Los Angeles Kings. And they mentioned, their farm system is absolutely loaded. Maybe the best in hockey, but it will take time to make an impact. Yeah, that's the point. I mean, we're talking about guys like Carl Grundstrom, Arthur Kaliev, Alex Turcotte, Quentin Byfield. Is Byfield going to be in the NHL this year? I think a lot of you have said he'll go back to the OHL, which I think is crazy. I think he's done with the Sudbury Wolves at this point. I think he's ready to go to the LA Kings and make an impact on that roster. We've been seeing top 5 players go into the NHL year 1. A lot of those guys end up going in right off the bat, have their rookie season that year. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Kings. I agree, though. They have some issues up front. When you have a top line of Alex Iafallo, Anze Kopitar, and Dustin Brown, there's some issues there. So, to put it quite frankly. So, they have some issues. The blue line is not the best either. I don't like Ole Mata playing with Drew Doughty. So, they have a couple issues that they have to work on. But again, that's something that will get better. They are in a rebuild. But like they mentioned, and a lot of you have mentioned in the comments over the past couple weeks, the Kings have a very good prospect system, so I'm not too worried about the Kings moving forward. They're going to get another top 5 draft pick, hopefully, and they will be just fine. At 29, the Ottawa Senators. Now, I'm actually surprised that they were at 29. I expected them to maybe even be ahead of some of these other teams. If you squint really hard, you can see a bright light at the end of the tunnel, but it is still a very lengthy tunnel. Yeah, I don't agree with this. I think the Ottawa Senators are better than they're giving them credit for. You know, they have right in front of them, they have the Blackhawks, the Ducks, and even the Coyotes and the Devils. I would say they're maybe like in that category where they're with the Minnesota Wild, who are at 24. So they're not giving the Senators a lot of credit. The Chicago Blackhawks are at 28. Again, an outstanding goalie duo made this team look more competitive a year ago. They no longer have that duo. The rebuild has officially arrived. The season could get away very quickly. Yeah, I'm surprised they're at 28. I mean, I guess that's, in my opinion, they would be the third worst team. They would be behind the Ottawa Senators, in my opinion. I think they're steps behind the Senators. They just added Matt Murray, another year of Thomas Chabot and Brady Tkachuk, as well as those other guys that they've been getting in the draft, guys like Tim Stuchlo, Jake Sanderson. I think they will be in the lineup this season. I don't understand why the Senators are that low, but the Blackhawks, it makes sense. They are going to struggle immensely this year. The Anaheim Ducks, there's nothing wrong with signing Shattenkirk, but that is not the moving the needle for this team. Long way to go here. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Ducks are in a situation. I think they could be more competitive in that Pacific Division because of how weak that division is. I mean, that's going to be tough. Those California teams, like I mentioned last week, it's going to be a struggle for that group. I think their defense got really bad really quickly. Martin Jones got really bad really quickly, and the one bright spot was their offense with guys like Tomas Hertl and Logan Couture, and those guys got injured pretty badly toward the end of last season. So those are the things that I really worry about with a team like the Sharks, and they're the best out of the three, and they're at 23 in their rankings. I kind of agree with that. So it's going to be another tough year for them as well. The Arizona Coyotes are 26, the Western Conference version of New Jersey, which is interesting because that's what Taylor Hall tried to get away from, right? So, losing a guy like Taylor Hall hurts, and they really haven't added anything major this offseason, and they've had a lot of turmoil in ownership and things like that. So it's going to be a tough year for the Coyotes. And again, I think goaltending, Darcy Kemper has to stay healthy. They're going to have to rely on Aiden Hill more. I think there's going to be a tough year for the Coyotes fans, and I hope they have some really nice threads to go along with it. But it's going to be a tough road this year for the Coyotes. And at 25, they have the New Jersey Devils. No shock here. The goalies give them a chance. They need to find more offense. That's true. And they've got the guys. I mean, you look at what they have. Miles Wood, Jesper Bratt, Kyle Palmieri, Nikita Gusev, Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier. Do I need to keep going on? They have plenty of guys that can play. They just have not elevated to that next level, especially those younger guys I'm talking about. Pavel Zacha. When is he going to develop? Michael McLeod, former first or second round pick. Brett Seney, he seems like he's kind of fallen out of the race entirely. Jesper Bratt had a really good rookie season last year with some injuries and a little bit of inconsistency, really struggled with the Devils. Miles Wood, when is he going to develop into that top six forward that he was projected to be? So, the Devils have really been hit hard, and I think they're one of those teams that you really hope would get to that next level. They look better on paper, and then we saw them last season, and they were not as good as we were sold. It was bad goods that we were sold there in New Jersey. It's just a tough situation for the Devils. At 24, they have the Minnesota Wild. This is probably a team that spends most of the year on the playoff bubble, but ultimately falls short, especially at forward. Yeah, they have some issues at forward. I think adding Kirill Kaprizov absolutely helps that for the Wild. They've been waiting for him to come over to North America. He's finally going to come over. I think they made some decent additions. I think moving out Eric Stahl is going to hurt them, though. I think that was a tough loss. They lost Luke Cunnin. He is now property, I believe, of the Nashville Predators. So they lose a little bit of depth there. They need guys like Joel Eriksson-Ek to really step up this season. They need the goaltending to work. They move out Devin Dubnyk. You really got to find a way to make that work in Minnesota. But I think it's going to be another tough year sledding for the Wild, despite what Bill Guerin has been doing. I think the future looks bright. Just this season, not quite yet for the Wild. 23, they have the Sharks, Doug Wilson. There's a path to improve, but it's going to take a lot. A bounce-back year is needed for Devin Dubnyk, who comes over. I don't think that will happen. I do not like that goaltending tandem of Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk. It's very unreliable. I'm really concerned about the San Jose Sharks going into this year. Wow. So at 22, they have the Buffalo Sabres. I disagree with this. I think the Sabres are a little bit better than some of these teams. They added Taylor Hall. They added Eric Staal. But what are they saying? But they are going to be enough to make up the massive gap that existed between them and the playoff teams. Yeah, see, but I don't think they remember that they were 1 point behind the Montreal Canadiens, who went in the playoff bubble and actually did pretty well. They beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were only 1 point behind that team. So I don't know what this big gap is that they're talking about. I think the parity of today's NHL, I've spoken about that over the past couple of weeks. I'm a supporter of the Buffalo Sabres here. I think they've made some changes. Linus Ullmark has to be healthy this year. That is key. They cannot rely on Carter Hutton. If that becomes the situation, there's going to be troubles for the Sabres. But if Linus Ullmark is healthy, if Taylor Hall, Victor Olofsson, and Jack Eichel have that really solid top line, and then complemented by a solid second line of Reinhart, Staal, and a bounce-back season from Jeff Skinner, the Buffalo Sabres' ceiling is there, and they could make the playoffs in a situation where we see possibly, as much as people hate this, the Leafs possibly regress, the Boston Bruins, one of them potentially regresses, or the Montreal Canadiens, who I think will go upward. But I think it's going to be interesting. The Sabres are a team to keep an eye on for sure. At 21, they have the Florida Panthers. I disagree. I think the Florida Panthers are worse than the Sabres. Every year, the Panthers seem like they make 100 moves, and it always ends up leaving them in the same place. Yeah, I think they're going to be worse in the standings, if I'm going to be honest. I think the loss of Mike Hoffman and Evgeny Dadonov is going to be rough on them. I think seeing the young guys like Denisenko, that's going to be exciting to see how he does. Owen Tippett, but are they ready for the top six this year? They're going to be put in a big role here in year one with the Florida Panthers. Question is, too, will Joe Quenneville accept guys like Owen Tippett and Grigory Denisenko? Because if he's not a fan of those guys, well then, who do they throw into the lineup? Some scrub that they signed on a one-year deal? So, the Florida Panthers, this could be a potentially good season, but I'm not confident in that. I think the Buffalo Sabres are better than the Panthers. The Nashville Predators are at 20. They lost a lot of goals from last year and did not really bring in anybody. Yeah, they were really trending backward as a team, and I'm not sure anything that this offseason reserves that. Yeah, I think the Predators are not going to be that good this year. They may be a team that really takes a step back this season. You've got some solid players, but again, the goaltending is huge here for Nashville. They could win that division there in the Central, or they could also get beat to the ground and be blown out of the barn by December or whatever game 30 or 40 into the season would look like. They could be killed out that early. So the Nashville Predators, it's going to depend on goaltending. I think it's the end of the road for Pekka Rinne. He will play his final season. That will be it. And then we look at a guy like UC Saros, who has not really taken that next step yet. We've been waiting for that. And until he takes that next step, the Predators, I think, are going to have some issues. They've got some solid players, but again, they're getting older year by year. Since 2016 when they went to the final, it's been that long, guys. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Predators, but they are an interesting team, one way or the other, in terms of their standings next year. At 19, they have the Rangers. I would maybe have the Rangers a little bit higher up. This, with all the talent they have, I think they have some real potential to be a good team next year. I think the distraction of Lundqvist being gone, I think that helps them out. I think, not having that 3-goalie rotation and all the situations surrounding that, this is a good chance for the Rangers to just go pedal to the metal. And I think they're better than some of these teams they have ahead of them, which I don't necessarily agree with. Winnipeg Jets are at number 18. Love the forwards, love the goalie, hate the defense. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. The defense is a weak point for the Winnipeg Jets. And when you have a Vezina candidate in Connor Hellebuck, you should be in that conversation as a team that goes on a deep playoff run. That did not happen last year just because they just don't have the defense. Defense wins championships. How many times do we have to say that? You look at the teams that have won the Stanley Cup over the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They need to have good defenses, and that's why I think the Maple Leafs will struggle once again this year. And I think, again, we'll talk about the Leafs later, but they're one of those teams that I worry about. And that's why at number 17, you've got the Columbus Blue Jackets. Look what that beat-up roster did last year. A team that was really not that good. Look what that defense did. And I think, you've got to remember, Seth Jones and Zach Werenski is one of the top pairs in the NHL, in my opinion. Do the Leafs have that pair? No. I don't think most teams in the NHL do. And that's why, despite the lacking of offense that the Blue Jackets have, they were able to go on a nice run last year. And obviously John Tortorella knows a thing or two about winning a Stanley Cup, so he was able to get them on a pretty good run last year, despite what everybody thought they would do last season. At number 16, you have the Montreal Canadiens. Wild off season. They add Joel Edmondson, which is interesting to say the least. Josh Anderson, which I think is going to really come back and bite Mark Bergevin in the ass. I think that was a big mistake based off of the injury history we've seen from Josh Anderson. He is a good, gritty player. It didn't look like it was going to work out with Max Domi, so why don't you just replace him for the same type of player who just puts up less points and gets injured more? Let's just do that, right? And sign him to a big mega contract. So I'm not a fan of that. I think adding Toffoli was a good move. We need to see the progression of guys like Nick Suzuki and Jesperi Kotkaniemi up front, as well as Ryan Poehling. Again, we need to see goaltending. We need to make sure that goaltending tandem is going to work this year with Jake Allen now and Carey Price. Alex Romanov, we need to see him develop on the blue line for the Habs. So, again, it wasn't a huge offseason for the Canadiens, but the little moves they made, I think they're even better than number 16, and I think they're going to compete for one of those top spots in the Atlantic Division, which I'm sure plenty of fans are going to get pissed about. So at number 15, we got the Calgary Flames. They didn't add a lot of things this offseason. They did add Jacob Markstrom in between the pipes, which is an upgrade short term, and I think Brad Treliving is just done with the goalie carousel there in Calgary. I mean, you look at what they've had since he's gotten there. They had Mika Kiprasov, for crying out loud. My God, that guy sucks. So, you need a reliable goaltender. You've had guys like David Rittich. You've had, the scrubs from Arizona, and, it doesn't work. And Mike Smith. So they're done with that. We see them go out, pick up a big goaltender. As long as Markstrom stays healthy, I think the Calgary Flames could go on a decent run next year. They've definitely taken a big hit on their defense. But again, we're going to see the young guys like Chillington, the guys like Rasmus Anderson that need to step up. Huso Valimaki, they need to step up for that blue line for the Calgary Flames. At number 14, we head out to BC to look at the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks, I think, are going to be one of those teams in the Western Conference. I wouldn't be surprised if it's them and the Vegas Golden Knights competing for that Pacific Division, and everybody else kind of just falls into place. You got the Alberta teams maybe steal that third spot. One of those teams steals the third spot, and then the California teams I don't think will even be competing. And I'm really not that excited about the Coyotes. So I agree with the Canucks being in the top 15, but I don't agree with them at 14. I think they should be closer to maybe 10 or 11. All right, so now we got at number 13. Oh, look, they aren't in the top 10. The Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't hate what they did this offseason. TJ Brodie was a great pickup, but this roster did get a lot older this offseason. So I'm not the only one that doesn't like the Leafs this offseason. And like I said, if you're going to be honest with how that division is aligning, and a lot of people hate it, but I'm telling you, the Canadiens are moving forward. They're moving up. They still have Carey Price. You have the Buffalo Sabres who made some moves this offseason. I think they could be potentially better. And you still have the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, I don't think the Florida Panthers are going to be in that conversation, or Ottawa, or Detroit. So that's the only saving grace for the Leafs at this point. 3 of those teams aren't even competing for a playoff spot, I don't think. But you've got these 4 other teams that I think are just better than the Leafs at this point. So take with that what you will, but at 13 you have the Maple Leafs. At number 12 we got the Philadelphia Flyers. They have some wiggle room under the salary cap and can still do something with that. Yeah, that's why I don't want to make a power rankings, and I'd rather just review this guy's crummy rankings. But honestly, I think the Flyers are I looked at their roster. They're what's the word for that? It's a well-rounded roster throughout, but there isn't any superstar talent, and that's why I was a little bit surprised. I thought maybe they would go after somebody here this offseason. Maybe they did, and they just missed out on those guys. But the Philadelphia Flyers, I think, could use that other player. You know, we saw the emergence of guys like Sean Couturier, Travis Konechny last season, Oscar Lindblom, God bless his soul with everything with the cancer. But the Philadelphia Flyers have definitely lost a step in a guy like Claude Giroux. Jacob Voracek at points last season did not look his best. So the Philadelphia Flyers, they've got a pretty solid defense. They got Carter Hart, one of the best goaltenders in the league as well. So I think that's going to be their saving grace. But they do need that superstar talent player up front that they are desperately lacking at this point. At number 11, they have the New York Islanders. I agree with this. They are giving some respect to the Islanders. Finally, somebody giving respect. But I'm not just saying that as a homer. I think the Islanders, kind of like the Vancouver Canucks, I think the Islanders are one of those teams that could really move up. They could potentially win that Metro Division, or they could miss the playoffs as well. I think they're just one of those weird teams, depending on the situation, how teams match up against them. That's how the Islanders are going to have to play. And let's remember, we got a new goaltender here, a Russian goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. The Islanders are expecting a lot out of him. He did very well in the KHL, put up video game-like numbers in the KHL with CSKA Moscow. So the Islanders are expecting a lot from this young guy. Hopefully things work out for him with the New York Islanders. But we're going to have to wait and see how that works out. The defense is pretty much the same. You lost Devin Tays. You bring in more minutes for Noah Dobson. So the Islanders are going to look a little bit different there. Up front, we're going to see different guys like Kiefer Bellows, Oliver Wahlstrom coming to the fold. So the Islanders are going to look a little different, but they're going to be mostly the same roster, if not even a little bit younger. At number 10, going into the top 10, we have the Edmonton Oilers, which I'm a little bit surprised that they're in the top 10. You added Tyson Barrie, Kyle Turris, Dominic Cahoon, but the questions are still there about the goaltending. And I think defense wins championships, goaltending gets you into the playoffs. And I don't know how I feel about Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith. I don't know how the hell they're going to make the playoffs with that. And like I said, that Pacific Division is, you've got the three, here's the thing. I think Vancouver and Vegas already are a lock for those top two spots in the Pacific. And then you've got one of the two Alberta teams, which is Calgary or Edmonton. All right? And then you've got to worry about the Central Division, which has progressively gotten pretty weak over the past couple of years. But maybe the Oilers do what they did last year, and they go on a run and they have a good team, but that depth up front has gotten fixed, but their goaltending is still an issue, and I think that's going to hurt them. I don't know what to say. All right, so I don't disagree with, oh man, what am I saying? Yeah, I don't agree with this. At number 9, guys, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins at number 9. I do not agree with this at all. I think they're going to be a bottom feeder in that Metro Division this year. Goaltending is the biggest question here. They improved the roster in some areas. Michael Matheson on the blue line? Okay. But the Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith duo in net will determine what the team is capable of. I disagree with this wholeheartedly. Yeah, no. Chris Letang is not what he used to be. I don't even know what to say. I disagree with this. Brian Dumoulin, he's been injured a lot. Is John Marino going to take that next step for the Penguins? He really needs to. Marcus Pettersson, same thing. They need to step up this year. And then the bottom pair, Michael Matheson and Chad Ruhwedel, get out of here. Top 10. I disagree with that big time. All right, so at number 8, they have the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a team to watch in the Metro this year. The Carolina Hurricanes, they said not a very busy offseason, but they should be expecting some improvement from Andrei Svechnikov. Should take a massive leap this season toward superstardom. I think he's already there. I think Andrei Svechnikov is one of the best goal scorers in the NHL at this point. He's a really solid player, and this is a guy that could be, dare I say, a captain of the Carolina Hurricanes in the future. He's a really solid player, so I think him, Sebastian Aho, those guys need to continue to develop up front. Warren Fogle, some of those depth guys, we need to see more from them. And then the blue line, you need to see guys like Jacob Slavin really step up. Even a guy like Jake Bean, hopefully he gets into the lineup at some point this year. I think that's going to be huge for the Carolina Hurricanes. And again, goaltending. That's the big thing for the Carolina Hurricanes. And it seems like every year they find a way to get into the playoffs with their goaltending. And if they go on a run, they go on a run. If not, no big deal. So we've seen that when you look at these goaltenders on paper, they don't look like they would work. But for some reason, Peter Mrazek and James Reimer just works under Rod Brind'Amour. So I really can't say much. I agree. I think the Carolina Hurricanes could be a real competitor in that Metro division this year. At number 7, they have the Dallas Stars. Despite losing Tyler Seguin and Big Ben Bishop for probably 5 months, the Dallas Stars are going to be reeling without those guys. It puts Joe Pavelski on the top line. It puts a situation where Khudobin is your starter, Jake Ottinger as the backup. So the Dallas Stars, I like their team. I think they're going to maybe get a little bit better with the emergence of Guryanov and Rupe Hintz and some of those other guys. But I am still a little bit concerned about the goaltending. Is Khudobin going to be able to do what he did last year and bring it into this year for an entire season? I don't know. And we've seen Ben Bishop's injury history. He's turning 34 later this month. He's getting up there. He's an old man, guys. So we'll see what happens. But the Dallas Stars, I really like their chances if they get into the playoffs, but they have to get there first. At number 6, you got the Washington Capitals. I think the Capitals are a weird team. Adding Henrik Lundqvist is going to be interesting for this group. And with everything that's happened here with Ilya Samsonov, with his he was, I guess, riding a quad in the mud or something, and he broke his leg or some bone in his back. It really was not good. I saw the video. So hopefully he is continuing to recover, and that doesn't end up being a career-ending injury for Samsonov. I really liked him in Hershey. He looked like a really solid goaltender. He made a couple of mistakes. It looked like his glove side was a little bit weak. But besides that, Samsonov is the guy for the Washington Capitals, and they're going to need Henrik Lundqvist to be a good backup, which he kind of struggled last year in the 3-goalie rotation with the New York Rangers. So the St. Louis Blues are at number 5. Losing Pietrangelo hurts, but Krug is a pretty darn good replacement. Yeah, but he's not Pietrangelo. He doesn't bring that same leadership that Pietrangelo brings. And I like Torrey Krug. I think he's a great player. Damn, I have his jersey, his Bruins jersey. But compared to Pietrangelo, he is not that player, that leadership guy in the room. He's not that player. But I guess in terms of helping out, he's a good player to add. But he's definitely not that same level. He's not a right shot defenseman either, which doesn't help the equation. At number 4 is the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins defense is a big question, especially when it comes to replacing Krug, minutes, and production, but it will not be enough to knock them too far down the league standing. Still a top contender. I don't know if they're going to be at number 4 this year. This is, again, I feel like I don't like doing this, but you've got a team like the Islanders or the Canucks where they could win that Atlantic Division or they could entirely miss the playoffs next year. They're one of those teams. There's just a lot of change on that blue line, and I'm not really sure where they stand. They still have to sign Jake DeBrusk to a contract. He's still a restricted free agent right now. I don't know if they have to do arbitration. I don't know what they're doing with that. They got to figure that out. And for some reason, they're telling us that they're going to re-sign, Jake DeBrusk and bring in a replacement to Torrey Krug. I don't know how you do that with $6.5 million. But the Boston Bruins, Don Sweeney is going to try and do that. At number 3, we have the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights, losing Nate Schmidt and Paul Stastny will hurt, but adding Alex Pietrangelo gives them a bona fide number 1 defender. And obviously bringing back the goalie tandem of Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury is just a bonus on top of that. Yeah, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be one of those top teams in the Pacific with the Vancouver Canucks, I think. And I think the Vegas Golden Knights, like they said, despite losing Schmidt, despite losing Stastny, they have guys that can replace those guys. Schmidt can be replaced by Zach Whitecloud. Paul Stastny is going to be replaced by Cody Glass. So those guys leaving the organization doesn't hurt them that much. This is how the salary cap kind of kicks you in the ass. So there's a good chance here for Kelly McCrimmon to see how he handles his cap management. He did a good job of that this offseason, and obviously bringing in a top right shot defenseman in Alex Pietrangelo. They desperately needed that defenseman, and they now have that in Pietrangelo. A huge add for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now we move up into the top two. Guys, this is no question. You know who the top teams are. Number 2, we have Joe Sakic's Colorado Avalanche. No question here. Adding Brandon Saad and Devin Tays to this already outstanding roster should make them runaway favorites in the Western Conference when the season begins. Joe Sakic has built a monster team there in Colorado. And I don't know if he, did a couple things with these guys, bringing them up to his room and having a couple girls in there and a couple drinks. I don't know what the heck he does to get these guys to sign these contracts. But Joe Sakic is a legend right now. Kind of like Steve Yzerman has been with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it just shows that the state tax doesn't necessarily matter. It does matter to an extent, and it definitely helped with Tampa Bay. But now we're talking about Colorado. We're seeing a team like the Avalanche do this. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with the Avalanche, but I'm really excited to see what they do this year. They have a unbelievably good roster. Sam Girard forever for the next 7 years or 8 years at 5.5. Nathan McKinnon at like 6.8 for the next 2 years or 3 years. I mean, the Avalanche have done a very good job. Talk about cap management. Joe Sakic has done that. With all the crap he took with the Matt Duchene stuff, he has done a very good job since then with this Avalanche team. That means at number 1, you do the multiple choice. There's only one team left, and it's the defending Stanley Cup champions here in 2020. That is the Tampa Bay Lightning. We know they are going to lose somebody from their current roster. We just do not know who. Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn. Even when that happens, the defending Stanley Cup champs have the best and deepest roster in the league. Yeah, truth. That's just how it goes. The Tampa Bay Lightning, you don't get knocked off until you actually get knocked off. So it's hard not to argue that the Lightning are the best team in the NHL right now. You still have Andrei Vasilevsky, a Vezina winning candidate every season. He's always in that conversation. Victor Hedman, Norris Trophy winner, probably one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Again, and up front, they just have so many guys, even on the blue line. I mean, Mikhail Sergachev, where do they get him from? Bergevin, of course. But you can't deny that bringing in the guys like Kevin Shattenkirk on a 1-year deal, bringing in guys like Pat Maroon last year, like the fact that without Steve Yzerman, Julien Brisebois has done an unbelievable job with this Tampa Bay roster. He's not quite done yet. Talk about cap management. He's going to have to move out a guy like Tyler Johnson or Alex Killorn. How much damage does that do to their roster? I don't know. But even if they lose those guys, it's not going to hurt them all that much because they are just that deep and that heavy up front. But despite that, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of this guy's power rankings? Some of them I agree with. Some of them I don't quite agree with. I think the Oilers are a little bit high up. I think the Bruins are a little bit high up. The Pittsburgh Penguins definitely a little bit high up. And then what do you think of like the Leafs at 13? What do you think of that? The Calgary Flames at 15. The Rangers at 19. I think that's a little bit low for the New York Rangers. The Buffalo Sabres a little low at 22. So guys, let me know in the comments down below. What are your NHL power rankings? Leave a top 5 in the comment section down below. That will be much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.